At my mother's deathbed, she whispered, "You need to find your brother." My heart pounded as I asked, "Why?" "He betrayed us." Her eyes filled with tears as she handed me a letter and said, "Because everything you think you know is a lie." My hands trembled as I opened it, and discovered a secret that changed everything about why he left. I never imagined that a single moment could unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. But there I was, standing in the dimly lit hospital room, holding my mother's frail hand as she whispered her final words, "You need to find your brother." My heart pounded as I replied, "Why?" "He betrayed us." Her eyes filled with tears as she handed me a letter and said, "Because everything you think you know is a lie." My hands trembled as I opened it, and discovered a secret that changed everything about why he left. Growing up in Chicago, my brother Daniel and I were inseparable. We did everything together. Playing in Grant Park, sneaking into Cubs games at Wrigley Field, and sharing late-night talks on the rooftop of our apartment building in Lincoln Park. Our parents, especially Mom, always emphasized the importance of family. "Blood is thicker than water," she'd say, her eyes twinkling with conviction. But everything changed when Daniel abruptly left home when I was 22 and he was 24. He didn't say goodbye, he just vanished. Mom was devastated, and Dad, though less vocal, seemed deeply hurt. I tried reaching out to Daniel, but my calls went unanswered, and my letters were returned unopened. Over time, anger replaced my sadness. How could he abandon us like that? Years passed. I built a life for myself in Chicago, working as a journalist for the Chicago Tribune. I married, had 2 kids, and settled into a routine. Daniel became a distant memory, a painful chapter one preferred not to revisit. Then came Mom's illness. Pancreatic cancer. It was aggressive, and within months, we found ourselves in that sterile hospital room, the beeping machines a constant reminder of the fleeting time we had left. Her last words to me were a plea to find Daniel, accompanied by that mysterious letter. I left the hospital in a daze, the letter clutched tightly in my hand. Sitting in my car, I hesitated before unfolding the yellowed paper. The handwriting was unmistakably Mom's. "Dear Michael, if you're reading this, it means I've left this world, and there are things you need to know. First and foremost, I love you and your brother more than anything. What I'm about to reveal is something I kept hidden to protect you both. Daniel didn't leave us by choice. Your father and I made a decision that forced him to go. He discovered a truth about our family that we couldn't let become public. Your father had been involved in activities that, if exposed, would have destroyed us. Daniel threatened to go to the authorities. To protect our family, we convinced him to leave, to disappear. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Please find him. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I love him." With all my love, Mom, tears streamed down my face as I read and reread the letter. My world tilted on its axis. Dad involved in something nefarious? Daniel forced to leave to protect us? It was too much to process. I confronted Dad the next day. He was a shell of the man I remembered, grief-stricken and weary. When I showed him the letter, he sighed deeply, his eyes moist. "It's true," he admitted. "I was involved in some questionable dealings back then. Daniel found out and wanted to go to the police. We couldn't let that happen. So, we made him leave." "What kind of dealings?" I pressed. He looked away, shame evident on his face. "Illegal investments. Money laundering." I was in deep, and if it had come out, we would have lost everything. I felt a mix of anger and pity. My father, whom I had always seen as a pillar of integrity, had feet of clay. Determined to find Daniel, I began my search. I started with his old friends, but most had lost touch. I hired a private investigator, but leads were scarce. Weeks turned into months, and just when I was about to give up, I received a call from an unknown number. "Michael?" a familiar voice asked. "Daniel?" My breath caught in my throat. "Yeah, it's me." "Where are you?" "I've been looking for you everywhere." "I'm in Seattle." I heard about Mom. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there. She wanted me to find you. She left me a letter explaining everything. There was a pause. I see. I need to see you. Please. He hesitated before replying, all right. There's a cafe called the Green Bean in Greenwood. Meet me there tomorrow at noon. The next morning, I boarded the earliest flight to Seattle. The city was overcast, a drizzle making the streets glisten. I took a cab straight to the Green Bean. The cafe was cozy, filled with the rich aroma of coffee and baked goods. I spotted Daniel immediately. He looked older, more worn, but it was undeniably him. We stared at each other for a moment before he stood, and we embraced tightly. The years melted away in that hug. Sitting down, I said, I read Mom's letter. I know why you left. He nodded, eyes downcast. I wanted to protect you. I thought by leaving, I could keep you out of it. I wish you had told me, I said, voice thick with emotion. I wanted to, but I was scared. Scared of what it would mean for you, for the family. We talked for hours, filling in the gaps of the past years. Daniel had built a life in Seattle, working as a carpenter. He had a fiancée named Lily and was expecting his first child. I'm happy for you, I said sincerely. Mom would have been too. Thanks, Mike. That means a lot. As I boarded the plane back to Chicago, I felt a sense of closure. The past had been painful, but understanding the truth allowed me to move forward. Daniel and I kept in touch, rebuilding our bond. It wasn't easy, but family never is. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, but it's how we handle them that defines us. And sometimes, the truth, no matter how painful, is the first step toward healing. A week after coming back from Seattle, I couldn't sleep. I'd stare at the ceiling until sunrise, thinking about what Mom had said and what Daniel had told me. It didn't sit right. There were still missing pieces. If Daniel left to protect the family, why did Dad never say anything all these years? Why was Daniel so vague about what actually happened? And most of all, why was Mom crying so hard when she handed me that letter? Something wasn't adding up. One night, I pulled out the letter again. I noticed something I hadn't before. There was a second page, folded behind the first, almost stuck to it. It was shorter. Just a few lines. Michael, there is more I never had the courage to tell you. Your father wasn't the only one keeping secrets. I was too. Go to the old lake house. You'll find what you need in the attic. Forgive me. I felt cold. The lake house. I hadn't been there in over 15 years. It was in Wisconsin, near Geneva Lake. We used to spend summers there when we were kids, before everything started to go quiet in the family. I remember loving that place, the boat rides, late-night barbecues, the way the stars lit up the sky. But after Daniel left, we stopped going. Dad said we couldn't afford it anymore. I got in the car early the next morning. Didn't even tell my wife where I was going. Just left her a note. I needed answers first. The drive took 2 hours. The road twisted through small towns and empty farms. When I pulled up to the lake house, it looked almost haunted. Paint peeling off the siding, windows fogged with grime, weeds growing through the wooden porch. But it was still standing. I stepped inside. The air was stale and damp. Dust clung to every surface. Everything was where we left it, faded photos on the mantel, the couch with the burn mark Daniel accidentally made when we were teenagers, the broken clock that always said 3:17. I went straight to the attic. The wooden stairs creaked under my weight. When I opened the hatch, dust poured down like smoke. The attic was dark, lit only by a single crack in the ceiling where sunlight forced its way in. I found a metal box buried under an old mattress. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Some I remembered. Some I didn't. There were also papers. Legal documents, receipts, letters. Most of them were about money transfers, large amounts, wired overseas. Some had Dad's name on them. But there were others, signed by Daniel. That stopped me cold. Why would Daniel sign off on these? Then I found something else. A cassette tape, with a post-it note on it. In Mom's handwriting, play only when you're alone. I didn't have a cassette player, so I packed the box and drove back to Chicago in a daze. My mind was spinning. Was Daniel involved in Dad's crimes? Did he lie to me in Seattle? I found an old player at a thrift store and played the tape in my garage that night, the door locked. It was Mom's voice. Michael, if you're listening to this, then the letter led you here. I'm sorry for keeping this from you, but I didn't know how else to handle it. Daniel didn't just discover your father's crimes, he helped him. At first, it was just a way to make money. Your father brought him in, told him it would help pay for college, help us live better. And for a while, they were close. But it got darker. Dangerous. There were people involved, people who didn't like loose ends. That's why Daniel left. Not to protect us, but to save himself. He had a chance to testify, to come clean, but he ran. And I helped him. I stopped the tape. My heart was pounding in my chest like a drum. My brother lied to me. And Mom, she had covered for him. I listened again. Her voice broke as she continued. I loved you both. But I knew if I told you, you'd go after him. I couldn't lose both of you. I thought I could take the truth to my grave, but I see now that was wrong. Find him again, Michael. Ask him what really happened in 2009. He'll know what I mean. And whatever he tells you, believe it. Just promise me you won't hate him. I turned off the tape. That was the year Daniel disappeared. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Betrayal? Confusion? My own mother lied to me. Daniel lied to me. And my father had started it all. But I couldn't stop. I needed the whole truth. So I called Daniel. He answered after 2 rings. Mike, he said, like he was expecting me. I went to the lake house. There was silence. I found the tape, I added. More silence. Then he said quietly, I was wondering when you would. I need to know what happened in 2009. He didn't answer. Daniel, tell me the truth. All of it. I deserve that much. He sighed, deep and long. Then he said, you might hate me after this. Try me. And what he told me next would tear apart everything I thought I'd rebuilt with him, and make me question whether I ever really knew my brother at all. Daniel didn't speak for a while. I thought he might hang up. Then he said, I didn't just run away in 2009. I was forced to. By who? I asked. He took a breath. By people Dad owed. Dangerous people. People who don't forget. I stayed quiet. You remember that summer before I left, he continued. Dad took me on that fishing trip upstate. Only we didn't fish. He introduced me to someone. Said his name was Mr. Vito. Told me I was old enough to understand how the world really works. I thought it was just business. But by the 3rd meeting, I realized it was something else. Drug money, Michael. Guns. Bribes. And the paperwork, he made me sign them. I was too stupid to say no. My stomach turned. You signed off on money laundering? I said, not even recognizing my own voice. Yes. But not just money. Fake passports. Offshore accounts. Stuff I didn't even understand. I didn't know how deep I was until the FBI showed up one night. They wanted me to flip on Dad. Oh my God, I was going to. I swear I was. But then Dad found out. And so did Vito's people. They threatened me. Said if I talked, you'd be next. You. Not just me. That's when I knew I had to leave. I pressed my hand against my face, trying to process. Why didn't you just tell me all of this in Seattle? Because I didn't know if you were still being watched. I didn't know who I could trust. I thought it was safer to give you the simple version. I wanted to scream. So what now? Are we safe? He hesitated. I don't know. And then something clicked in my head. You have a kid coming, Daniel. If any of this comes out, I know, he cut me off. That's why I need your help. With what? I need you to find something. What? There's a second safe at the lake house. Behind the fireplace downstairs. You won't find it unless you know what to look for. Inside are documents. Originals. The ones that link everything. Not just Dad. Not just me. The politicians. The business people. Even a judge. A judge? He lowered his voice. The same one who signed off on your promotion at the Tribune. You don't get it, Mike. This thing touches everything. And everyone. I stood in my garage in silence. I didn't know what scared me more, that my family was tied to this, or that I might be, too, without ever knowing it. Okay, I said slowly. I'll go back. I'll find the safe. And Mike? Yeah? If anything happens to me, you have to protect the documents. Not just for me. For the baby. That hit hard. I hung up and sat there for a while, trying to calm my breathing. Then I packed a bag and left for the lake house again, this time, not to look for the past, but to protect the future. When I got there, it was night. I parked behind the trees, just in case. The house looked the same, but something felt different. I stepped inside, and the air smelled off. Like cologne. And the fireplace? The ashes had been disturbed. I wasn't the only one looking for the safe. And now, someone else knew I was back. I stood there in the middle of the lake house living room, heart thudding in my chest. The ashes in the fireplace had been stirred, the brick around the hearth smudged like someone had touched it with dirty hands. I wasn't alone. I didn't even need to say anything. A cold voice came from the shadows behind the staircase. You shouldn't have come back here, Michael. It was my father. He stepped into the dim light, thinner than I remembered, wearing a black coat and gloves. His eyes looked hollow. Tired. But also alert, like a man used to watching his back. I stared at him, mouth dry. You knew. I always knew, he said calmly. But I didn't think she'd tell you. Not after all these years. You're still working with them? He shook his head slowly. No. I got out. But I still have to protect what's left. That includes you. No, it doesn't, I snapped. Protecting us was never your goal. You protected yourself. He looked at the fireplace. So. Did he tell you about the documents? I didn't answer. Of course he did, he muttered. He always was the weak one. I stepped forward. You made him sign those forms when he was 20, Dad. He was a kid. And I saved him, he shouted suddenly. You don't get it, do you? I kept this family from falling apart. Your mother, you, him, you all lived in a house with lights on and food in the fridge because of me. You think journalism paid those bills? The air cracked with tension. Then another voice came from the door. Daniel. He walked in slowly, his face pale, his jacket soaked from rain. I figured you'd be here, he said. My father stared at him with disgust. You should have stayed away. I did, Daniel said quietly. 4 years. But it never ended, did it? You pulled me in, and then you let me take the fall. You would have gone to prison. Dad roared. I saved you. Daniel looked at me, then back at Dad. No. You used me. You needed a second name on those forms. That's all I ever was to you, another signature. Silence stretched, thick and bitter. You knew they threatened me, Daniel continued. And when I came to you for help, you gave me a plane ticket and told me to disappear. I was protecting your brother. Dad barked. I was your son, too. The room felt like it was going to explode. Then I broke. All of you, lied to me, I said, voice cracking. Mom, you, Daniel. I spent over a decade hating him because of what you told me. And she went to her grave thinking this family was worth saving. Daniel stepped forward. Mike, I cut him off. You could have told me everything in Seattle. But you didn't. You let me fly home thinking you were the victim. I was a victim. So was I. There it was. Truth. Raw and brutal. My father backed toward the door, defeated. You don't understand how hard it was. The choices I had to make. I understand perfectly, I said. You chose yourself. Over and over again. He didn't argue. Then he said something that chilled me. The people behind this, they're still out there. If you publish anything, if you leak those papers, you won't be the only one they come for. I'll take that risk. Daniel shook his head. Mike, don't. Not yet. Why not? I snapped. He looked me in the eyes. Because Lily's due in 2 months. If they know we're talking, they'll trace it back to her. To the baby. It hit me like a punch. All this time I'd been chasing truth, justice, some twisted closure. But now someone else was on the line, someone innocent. Someone who didn't even exist yet. I said nothing. I turned and walked out of the house. A week passed. The safe was real. I found it the next morning, just like Daniel said. Documents, pictures, bank records, a flash drive. All of it was in there. I scanned and stored everything. Then I locked it away. For now. Daniel stayed in Seattle. We talk, sometimes. Not every day. There's too much to say, and too much that probably never will be said. Dad vanished again. I don't know where he went. And I don't care. My wife knows everything now. She cried when I told her. Not because of the crime, but because I never told her how much it all hurt. There's no neat ending to this. No courtroom showdown or clean redemption arc. But I've changed. I don't see family the same way. Blood isn't everything. Choices matter more. Loyalty means something only when it's paired with honesty. Some days, I miss the innocence of not knowing. Most days, I'm glad the lie is dead. My mother wanted us to forgive each other. Maybe one day we will. But not today. Today, I'm just trying to breathe without the weight of secrets. That's enough, for now.